Forget What You See by Anonymous.
Stay away from me. Those were the last words heard inside West High last night. 3 youths were killed.
The news reporter took a beat to read the teleprompter.
Blood is smeared on the wall throughout the school. It was used to write the same symbol over and over. They are all an X crossing through an O.
The news reporter had a strange look in her eye.
The names have just been released. The 3 that were murdered are Sydney Heralds, David Hanson and John Jackson. A note was written by John, explaining the events over the last few days.
I had recently started a creative writing class at West. My teacher's name was Mrs. Jones. I remember the classroom was filled with seniors that just wanted an easy credit. Me, I wanted a class that would seem fun.
All right, listen up. We're about to start our first story today.
Mrs. Jones said.
The type of story we're going to write is horror.
A few students grew a grin and the others paid no attention. I thought of something perfect. Slender Man. Earlier this year, my friend David told me about it. David had suggested to read a few creepypastas and even watch a few YouTube videos. I did for a few days straight, and I became terrified of them. The image of Slender Man wouldn't leave my mind. It was a tall, lean figure with a black suit that had a bright red tie. He had no features on his blank white face. I had left my class thinking about the story and Slender Man. I went on to my next class, which David was in. "Hey, I get to write this horror story for creative writing?" I said. "I was thinking about making it about Slender Man." David's face had drained of all color and stared out beyond me. I looked behind myself to see if anything was there. "Are you all right?" I asked. David leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Forget what you see." David went and sat in his seat like nothing had happened. He didn't talk to me for a few days, and at the same time his condition was getting worse. Every time I saw him, his face aged more and more. It looked like he hadn't slept either. I went up to him yesterday to find out what was going on. "Are you okay?" "What's it to you?" David yelled, and he stormed off. As he was leaving, I saw cuts on his arm. Not normal cuts, but a picture. It was an X crossed through an O. "No," I gasped. I had seen that before. It was the symbol of Slender Man. At first, I thought it was just a prank, because he knew I was afraid. But it was going too far. I thought it would be a good idea to go to his girlfriend for answers. "Hey, Sydney,"
Oh, hi, John.
she said. "Do you know what's going on with David? He's been getting worse."
I wanted to ask you the same thing. I'm worried. John and I don't know what's happening to him. I just want him to be okay. Do you know when this started?
I think it happened early this week, when I was talking to him about my creative writing story.
Well, that couldn't have been it. Well, what was it about? It could have made him snap.
"Slender Man," I said jokingly. I was really hoping he's just been messing with me. I looked at her. No, not you two. She had the same 1,000-yard stare that David did. "Don't you dare say..."
Forget what you see,
she whispered. I spun around thinking she was looking at something. Nothing was there, just an empty hallway. I looked back at Sydney and saw her on the ground, crying.
Just stay away from me. You already took David. Don't take me too.
She sobbed. I couldn't tell if it was directed at me or whatever she saw. I stepped back slowly, turned, and ran. And as soon as I did, I ran into David. "Where are you running to, John?" David said.
He just wants to meet you,
Sydney said, already back on her feet. I snuck past them and broke out into a sprint. They followed me until I was out of the school and stopped dead in their tracks. They smiled and waved at me. I ran even faster, not looking back. While running, I saw him in every window, doorway, and backyard. Always in the corner of my eye, he would appear at the next house. On approaching my house, I saw him fully in my neighbor's doorway. I pressed on and ran straight into my basement. As I flew down the stairs, I met face to face with him. I was overcome with dizziness and I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in what looked like a classroom. I stood up to figure out where I was. I walked out and saw that I was on the second floor hallway of West High. The lights were off except for the red exit sign, but I could see in full horror what was on the wall. Blood was on the wall, with that same goddamned symbol. I tried to make a run for the nearest exit, but I heard a sharp scream coming from a few doors down. It sounded like Sydney, so I ran in hopes of saving her. Upon opening the door, I vomited from the sight. I had no idea what happened, or even if it was Sydney. A pool of blood stains the floor while a dismembered body sits in the middle. I ran into the adjacent room for a place to hide. I sat there for hours, hearing thrashing and yelling. I thought it was David. I thought it would be best to write down what has happened in case I don't get out. I'm hearing footsteps coming to my door. It's being opened. I don't think he knows I'm in here.
The rest of the paper is covered in blood and is unreadable. I guess we know that this slender man is the one to blame, but he isn't real. More will be covered on the...
The news reporter trailed off, stared straight beyond the camera, and whispered,
Forget what you see.